This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it's day 2 of the NBA draft, and after having to watch everyone else last night, the Bucks do have a pick tonight. It's number 47 overall. Milwaukee took Tyler Smith with their second-round pick last year, and he went on to play in 22 games. The last time their second-round pick made an impact, Jordan Nwora back in 2020. Meanwhile, it's also a big night for former Badgers guard John Tonje. The All-American's big postseason and draft process pushed him into the middle of the second round in many mock drafts. Only one Wisconsin player, Johnny Davis, in 2022, has been drafted since 2016. Turning to the Brewers, they are getting the day off, but folks still marveling at the effort from Jacob Misiorowski to start his career. He's now 3-0 with a 1.13 ERA after dominating Pittsburgh yesterday. His early impact has been fun to watch for a veteran like Trevor McGill.
I mean, he just looks like he's very grateful to be here, to be honest. Like, he does not, it's not like he's taking the pressure and putting it on himself. He just looks like he's out there having fun and just being the kid everybody knows he is. So, once again, another great outing, and just very proud of the work and, the performances he's put together so far.
Brewers back in action tomorrow when Colorado brings its MLB worst 18-62 record to American Family Field.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Get insurance from a company who knows Wisconsin and cares about your community. You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home and auto rates? Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more about products and discounts.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, we're less than a month out from the start of Packers training camp. They will get things going July 23rd with the first of 14 practices open to the public. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
I'm going to scream about the hat situation. It's not the league's too smart to have the moment that they've waited their whole life for be a picture in the wrong hat. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know why they can't fix it.
So the Portland Trailblazers select Colin Cowherd here. This is a young man with the ultimate bet on yourself story.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Two of my favorite sound bites from the NBA draft last night. The hats, I know it's a dumb thing. I know it shouldn't really matter. But it's also such an easy fix, which is why I think people get hung up on it every year. Like, if a player is drafted by Atlanta, but in doing so is traded to Memphis, just hand him a Grizzlies hat. Like, there are Grizzlies hats back there. It's not like, oh crap, we don't have a Grizzlies hat. We only got the Hawks hats. Like, you have the hats. It's just, it doesn't matter. It's silly. It's stupid. But it's such an easy fix. And it comes up every year. And now it's almost to the point where I kind of hope they don't fix it. Because it's just such a funny thing that we can laugh about every year at this time when the NBA draft takes place. And then Malika Andrews, who I think is very good, misspeaks and says Colin Cowherd. Which, like, isn't that big of a deal if you're talking for hours on end, especially because a lot of these players are from France or from Eastern Europe. Not all these names are easy to pronounce, or from Africa. It's not easy to have all those names perfectly dialed. Yeah, even if you prepare a lot, even if you spend 2 weeks preparing to work the NBA draft and you write everything out phonetically, it's still hard. It's still really hard. So not really that big of a deal that Malika Andrews said Colin Cowherd instead of, I don't even remember the guy's name now, poor guy. But there should have been something in her brain where it's like, as soon as she said Colin Cowherd, something in her brain should have said that absolutely cannot be right. Like, there's not, like, if you read a draft card and you say out of your mouth Stephen A. Smith or Joe Buck, like, something in your brain has to go, wait a minute. Now wait a second. That's not, let me double check that really. And maybe she did know and she's like, I'm just going to push through it and hope no one noticed. The problem is the internet exists and we notice everything.
So the Portland Trailblazers select Colin Cowherd here. This is a young man with the ultimate bet on yourself story.
Just say, I think it was Cedric, right? Yeah, Cedric Coward. Just really quick, just be like, I misspoke there. Colin Cowherd, slip of the tongue. Cedric Coward. Of course. I actually kind of enjoyed the NBA draft last night. Not really because I care where any of these players go. The Bucks didn't have a pick. And while Cooper Flagg was an interesting, like that's a star. I'm interested to see after watching him at Duke in the tournament. It was really impressive. It was really fun watching him, even though it's Duke. I know we hate Duke. But we knew where he was going. We knew he was going number one overall to the Mavericks. We knew that a month or two ago. So it was half decent as an entertainment product because we got some good stories and some good moments. And if the NBA draft gives us that, I think it has served its purpose in the sports calendar in late June. So that's actually where I want to begin tonight. Some fun bits of audio and some fun stories to come out of last night, the NBA draft. Round 2 is tonight. You heard Zach talking about that in his update. The Bucks could make a pick. They could also trade away the pick for future assets or for whatever. So we'll see what happens tonight. Bucks fans, I would not go in tonight with lofty expectations of them picking some amazing player. Odds are they're going to take someone that most of us haven't heard of, and then we're all going to say, well, we can't draw conclusions until we watch him play, and then we'll move on with our life. That's probably how tonight will go. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. I'm happy that you're here, and I'll take your calls from now until 6 o'clock. The phone is back working today. There was some issue with Verizon yesterday, and it wasn't here in the studio. Every once in a while, we will have a technical difficulty. There's like 4 computer screens, a lot of buttons. Sometimes things don't work. That'll happen. I just want to be very clear. It was not our fault. There was some issue with Verizon. That issue has been resolved. So I'll be able to take your phone calls tonight at 608-321-1670. And you can text that same number and you can comment on live stream too. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you just look up the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills from my Twitter at Wisco Grant. We will get into the Brewers, lots of Brewers tonight. And I do want to talk about the Packers. I have a fun Packers topic or exercise that we did on Bill's show earlier today that I kind of want to rehash and give you my thoughts on. We'll probably get into that hour number 2. But I have a list. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that I was entertained by, or that I thought were interesting, or that I thought were funny, things that came out of last night's NBA draft. And you know what? None of them are, this Josh Anderson kid. I like his jumper. I have no opinions on any of these guys as basketball players. I was watching for entertainment. I was watching for content and stories last night. And like I said, I think the draft served its purpose last night. So bullet point number 1, these are in no particular order. It is once again a big storyline today that ESPN stinks and ESPN blows. I'll give you just a little taste. This is Bill Simmons on his, I think they did a live show after the draft. I listened to it on the drive-in this morning. It's like, I got to consume something on my drive-in related to the NBA draft. This is 60 seconds of, I think it's Bill Simmons with House, and I think Kyle Mann, was he the other one on this podcast, just complaining about ESPN's coverage.
I didn't know which telecast to watch.
And for reference, it was on ESPN and ABC. They had 2 separate broadcasts with 2 different groups of analysts.
I didn't know which telecast to watch. It was like, do I take this samurai sword and jam it into my temple, or do I take this chainsaw and saw my leg off? I couldn't figure it out.
Nobody's doing it like Bill Simmons. That's my favorite is, who threw a chainsaw in his hot tub? Like that's great. We can complain a lot about Bill Simmons. No one is, do I stick a samurai sword in my temple, or do I take a chainsaw and sog my leg off? Like no one's doing it like this in 2025.
Perk, they took Colin Murray-Boyles, and Perk said they have the pieces and they're a top 6 team in the East. And at that point, I started looking for a third ESPN channel, but there were only 2 covering the draft. There wasn't a third one, at least one that I couldn't find. But I didn't mind that pick. And then Malawach at 10. And then we had a trade. And then the draft started getting really weird. Cedric Coward, Memphis, moves up with Portland. Malika calls him Colin Coward, which is exciting. I thought Colin Coward got drafted for a second.
Poor Malika Andrews, because again, I think Malika Andrews is fine and very good. I don't think it's some referendum on her ability to do her job because she misspoke. It's just funny. So we're going to have fun with it today on Sports Talk Radio because that's what Sports Talk Radio does. It's just so good, though.
Select Colin Coward here.
This is the NBA draft. Everyone's complaining about ESPN today. Everyone's complaining about ESPN last night. I am more than happy to read folks' angry tweets and to listen to their rants about samurai swords and chainsaws. I would just like to say, for the purposes of this show and for my commentary, I'm just about done complaining about ESPN. This is the point now. Guys, it is what it is. You're going to get Kendrick Perkins. You're going to get Stephen A. You're going to get Malika Andrews. And if you don't like that, then I guess I'm sorry. But at some point, we got to just let this go, right? Like at some point, we just have to become apathetic to this thing. We cannot live the rest of our life having a temper tantrum on the internet or on sports talk radio or podcast or television the next day, complaining about ESPN. We just can't do it. It's such a futile exercise. And look, if you're going to have, fun turns of phrase like Bill Simmons, like, do I put a samurai sword in my head? Okay, that's funny. Like, I'll appreciate that. But I can't do the ESPN sucks thing every time they broadcast an event related to the NBA. It's just lost its luster, and it seems a little lame, and it's gotten a little boring, unless you're Bill Simmons, because again, no one's doing it like Bill Simmons. Love him or hate him. I simultaneously love him a ton and hate him a ton, which I think is the appeal, right? I think with sports talkers and sports talk shows, like, you have to elicit both. As long as people are listening, you're doing your job. As long as Bill Simmons is doing it in an entertaining way, I'll listen. But for everyone else, it's like, yeah, Stephen A is a little annoying, and there's a lot of them. And Kendrick Perkins is Kendrick Perkins. We don't need the column the next day. We don't need the social media rant that's posted for clicks. At some point, we just got to get over it. And I think that's where I am today. Another draft story. Let's go to point number 2. It sounds like Brooklyn, the Nets, drafted a couple Jewish fellas. At least that's what the internet is telling me. Ben Saraf and Danny Wolf, who I think I read today, both hold Israeli citizenship, unless that's fake news. I guess it could be fake news. It doesn't seem, everyone's talking about it, so it doesn't seem like it's fake news. I just think that was, I think it's really funny that people reacted strongly to that. I don't have an opinion, again, on either one of those players or the draft strategy of the Brooklyn Nets. However, Brian Windhorst, who I would have liked to listen to during the draft, the thing is, Brian Windhorst isn't really a scout, I don't think. He's not really someone, again, I think, who watches a ton of college basketball and is doing player breakdowns. He's an insider, so he's hearing from teams and hearing from people, and he's getting information. He was, I think, on NBA TV last night, and he gave us this little nugget, this little soundbite about what he was hearing around the league regarding Brooklyn and their draft choices.
I got some people telling me some things about Brooklyn. People are making fun of these draft groups. Oh, boy. I mean, I got people saying to me, executives and agents, they're like, and I was watching them play 3 two-way guys during this year so that they could clap for taking the guys in the 2020s. Wow. He's like, these two-way guys might be just as good as the guys that they're taking. I don't know anything about it. I'm just saying what people are saying.
Hey, we take 5 shots. One of them got to be right.
It's just there is no funnier dynamic to watch from the outside than the tortured fan base who just watched their awful NBA team win 20 games only to be stuck with the 10th pick in the draft and then to take those types of players. Like, we drafted who? We selected who? We selected 2 Hebrew gentlemen? What is this? I think they might be watch them be, incredible basketball players. But it was funny watching people react strongly to the Nets. And again, Wizards fans whose team sucks, and they've sucked for years, and they're like, this has to be our year. We're at the top of the lottery odds. We're getting Cooper Flagg. Not only do you not get Cooper Flagg, but you can't even get one of the 2 Rutgers guards, who I want to talk about in a couple minutes. But it was funny watching people react to what the Brooklyn Nets did last night. I was very entertained. Another bullet point, I guess this is bullet point number 3, things that entertained me or interested me from last night's NBA draft. So Ace Bailey, one of the aforementioned Rutgers guys, number 2, Dylan Harper is thought of as the better one. We talked about that with Isaac Trotter the other night. He goes to Utah after saying, I only want to go to Washington or Brooklyn. He didn't work out for anybody. I don't want to go here. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to Philly at 3. I want to go to Washington, which is kind of funny because they stink, or Brooklyn. And then Danny Ainge, who runs the Jazz, is like, screw you. You're coming to Salt Lake City, buddy. Get ready to speak Mormon, and good luck buying booze. You could, kind of feel that maybe he wasn't too psyched about that in the moment. And then the player Colin Murray Boyles, that's a name that sounds like a member of the royal family, got the most attention during the draft last night because of the very attractive woman I think he's dating, or I think I looked her up today for show purposes. For show purposes, I looked her up. It's called research, show prep. It's my job as a responsible host. And I guess she was a basketball player herself at South Carolina, so she was one of the stars of the draft. But Colin Murray Boyles, drafted by the Raptors, and you can see him audibly yell, F! And you make the case that he was just so excited Normally when I'm excited, I don't yell that. Guess I could. I've never been drafted. I don't know what it feels like. But you have Ace Bailey, not that jacked to go to Utah. Colin Murray Boyles, not that jacked to go to Toronto, it would seem. This is a complaint of mine, and it's not that deep. It's not that serious, but I am a little turned off by 18 and 20-year-old young men who are instantly put into generational wealth. And they're one of 30 players who are going in the NBA draft, or one of 14 players who are going into the lottery. It's such a small group. It's such an exclusive club. And we have multiple guys in one night who are clearly unhappy with the result. And again, it's sometimes really hard to watch the NBA without comparing it to the NFL, which is unfair in a lot of ways, but I think in others it is fair. It's like I watch NFL guys break down in tears. They could be drafted to Cleveland, could be drafted to the worst teams in football, and they break down in tears with their family because they're just so happy for the opportunity. And then I got to watch Ace Bailey, who accomplished two things. He accomplished two things at Rutgers: Jack and the S word. That's what they accomplished. They didn't make the NCAA tournament. 2 lottery picks. 2 of the best players in college basketball, prospects-wise. And he wants to get a stick up his butt because he only wants to go to 1 or 2 teams. And then Colin Murray Boyles is like having a little hissy fit because he's got to go to Toronto. It's just a little bit of a turnoff. It's not that deep. It's not that serious. But it is a turnoff to me. It's just, I think of the NFL draft and how happy all those guys are. Adam Silver, another bullet point. This is number 4 of my 5 things. It's a really formal segment here from last night's NBA draft. Adam Silver joined the ESPN desk to talk about the issues of the day affecting the NBA. Shockingly, he did not cover the All-Star game because that's just something that you won't shut up about. He's always talk about the All-Star game format, even though other than those 2 days where it's going on, no one cares, except it seems Adam Silver. Here he is on the recent plight of Achilles injuries in the NBA. There were 8 of them this year. And it's 2 minutes long, so I'm going to pause it halfway through, but I want you to hear the commissioner of the NBA talking about all these Achilles injuries.
I want to talk about the NBA Finals, Commissioner, because it was such a fun ride, that 7-game experience with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. And a really unfortunate sort of undertone of it in Game 7 was Tyrese Halliburton going down with the Achilles injury. And it's a rash of these injuries that we've seen now in these playoffs with Jason Tatum and Damian Lillard as well. Is the league looking at that at all, or is there anything to do to address it?
We are looking at it. And in fact, we had already convened a panel of experts before Tyrese's most recent Achilles rupture. So we had 7 this year. We had 0 last year under the exact same circumstances. And the most we've ever had in a season is 4. NFL has had a rash of Achilles issues as well. So the purpose of convening those experts is to try to figure out what's going on. It's interesting when we look back at the last 10 years, the majority of the Achilles injuries have happened before the All-Star break. So it's not clear it's the number of games. And as you know, modern NBA players, even when they're not playing games, sometimes in the summer, they're working harder than they are during the season when they're playing 3 games a week. They're often playing every day. Some experts think it may have more to do with youth basketball. It may have as much to do with what they do from 10 to 19. Increasingly, they're single sport athletes. These guys train also harder. Then when I talk to veteran players now, I was talking to Andre Iguodala the other day, the head of the Players Association. He's saying he's counseling a lot of these players that they need more rest on their body in the off season. I mean, you've got guys working out 3 times a day. So I'm hopeful that by looking at more data, by looking at patterns, this is one area where AI, people are talking about how that's going to transform so many areas. The ability with AI to ingest all video that a player of every game a player has played in to see if you can detect there's some pattern that we didn't realize that leads to an Achilles injury, whether it's associated with calf injuries. We really don't know, but we're taking it very seriously.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad to hear that, and of course, we hope Tyrese and Jason and Damian Lillard all get back on the court as soon as possible.
So normally, I'm pretty skeptical of AI. If there was a useful thing for AI, that actually does seem like, yeah, let that online thing analyze hundreds of hours of video and see if you can't find anything. That's actually, it would be easy to make fun of. It's like, oh God, the NBA is using AI. I don't know anything about AI. That seems, if there was ever a use for it, that maybe seems like a good one. I just know that nothing's going to change because Tyrese Halliburton blew out his Achilles. And then for 2 days on Sports Talk Radio last week, or I guess earlier this week, everybody went on the air and said the NBA has to do something. I mean, How much money do these billionaire owners need? They need to give back a couple of games and shorten the season. This is ridiculous. And then we move on. And we'll do the same thing next year when guys get hurt or struggle. It's the way that it works. I seriously think it's mostly bad luck. Maybe a little bit of overtraining. Maybe. Let the sports and exercise science people look into that. Let the AI analyze it, I guess. I just think we had our moment on Monday and Tuesday talking about the season is too long. And it probably is. But that's what keeps the money coming in. And that's what keeps the players paid. And that's what keeps the lights on. And we can yell about it until the cows come home or until about Tuesday. That's how long it lasted this week. And then we'll pick it up next year. Same time, same place, everybody. All right, got it. I have one more thing from the draft last night. And it's actually probably the thing that's most related to basketball. Everyone's jumping down the Pelicans' throat, which I think is a little fair, but also I think it's maybe a little silly. We can talk about that next. Also, take your phone calls on whatever, whether it be the Brewers. I want to get into the Packers later on in the show as well. But with the Brewers off today and the draft, having a lot of people talking after last night, that's where I wanted to begin the Wisco Sports Show. And your phone calls at 608-321-1670. We'll be back after this, thanks to Lacrosse Beer House.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
So the Portland Trailblazers select Colin Cowherd here. This is a young man with the ultimate bet on yourself story.
That's so good. And I'm not making fun of Malik Andrews. When you talk for 3 hours on end, it's going to happen. I just think it's funny. I want to be entertained. I want to laugh. I want to be given content from the NBA draft because I don't really care about a lot of those players or a lot of those teams. I certainly don't have strong opinions on many of those players or teams. And in a one-player draft, Cooper Flagg, well, we knew he was going to Dallas. We knew that a month ago. There's not much intrigue there last night. We have to find entertainment in other places. So I'll take your thoughts if you have any reaction to what happened last night, or you have any thoughts on what the Bucs should or shouldn't do tonight. It's totally on the table. But before too long, probably at 4:35 after our bottom of the hour break here, get into the Brewers a little bit. And I have a Packers topic for you in hour number 2. 608-321-1670. Let's take a call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, Tony from Texas. How are you? It's been a while.
Tony from Texas. It has been a while, and you are probably more qualified than I or many listeners to the show to talk about the NBA draft, because you are a highly successful AAU coach.
Well, Grant, you've thrown many topics on the table, including women from other cities like Salt Lake City. Why wouldn't you want to go to Salt Lake City? Some of the best looking blonde women in the world. I don't get it. I'm very sensitive to this topic, though.
Okay.
Being a Bucs fan. Back in 1992, we drafted a guy named Todd Day out of Arkansas, and he basically said like the F word, like this Dylan Harper did. And Todd Day ended up being a bust, of course. It was Mayday, Lee Mayberry and Todd Day for all you Bucs fans.
Interesting.
And it just didn't work out. And, Todd Day was a jerk and ended up being a journeyman. Point is, you get drafted, just go to the team. And, you got on this holier than thou thing, Grant, though, with you in the NFL. Do we not forget about Eli Manning? What happened?
Yeah, it has happened. It's definitely the outlier, though. What year was that?
Made a franchise move, Grant.
What year was that, Tony?
John Elway made a franchise move.
What year was that,
82?
Tony? That was like, you have to go like 100 years ago. Not actually, but it was a long time ago.
The last year the Brewers won the World Series, which might happen again.
The last year the Brewers went to the World Series? What?
Oh, went to the World Series. I said one. Oh, my God.
Elway was 82? I guess. Yeah, I suppose. Because by the time he was playing the Packers in the Super Bowl, like that was pretty late in his career. Yeah, I guess. So it was even longer ago than I originally thought. What was Manning? The early 2000s?
That was that 2003?
Something like that. I was going to guess 2002, 2003, something like that.
Yeah. But
it does happen in other sports. It does happen in other sports, but it seems to be I mean, look at what Will Campbell just got drafted to the Patriots, who are awful. They're in disarray, and I'm going to fight and die. Like, those guys just are ready to go. And then I got to watch these guys, roll their eyes because they got to go to Utah or to Toronto. Toronto, as the locals say.
Salt Lake is beautiful. I'm sure Cone Roller's been there before. Hey,
probably.
You're talking about the injuries, though, on a serious note, and you can blame me all you want because our team just played 8 games in 3 days. But I think it's the single sport thing. They're not playing all the soccer and I even played ice hockey as a kid. I just think you're moving around doing the different muscle groups. I do think there is something to that instead of just focusing on the one sport and all the training for one sport. I mean, I don't know if that's medically been proven, but that's my take on that. You got a thought on that?
Well, I agree. I don't really know the backgrounds of, Jason Tatum or Tyrese Halliburton or Damian Lillard, who's certainly older. Like, I bet that most of those guys in middle school and high school played other sports, but once you get into college and the pros, like Damian Lillard isn't going to play ultimate frisbee and pickleball in the offseason. Like he's not cross training in the offseason. And it's been so long since some of these guys. Yeah. I mean, I suppose you could, but don't you think these guys are working with the best sports scientists and trainers? Like they're not just doing arms. You know what I mean? Like, even though they're full-time basketball players, you got to think they're working every muscle group and staying balanced.
Yeah. Hey, I will say this. I've had 3 kids from my 7th grade team that blew up their ACL. I don't know what's going on. I mean, you got like guys like Zion Williamson that get, blow up their ACL. It's just a lot more injuries than what I was accustomed to growing up. It's just very bizarre that this has been going on. But if they cut the season in half, they better cut the damn games in half or pay in half because these guys make way too much money.
Well,
I mean,
and that's the problem. Let's say we go from 82 games to 70 games. That money's got to come from somewhere. I mean, you think all these owners are just gonna say, you know what, let the players keep it all. We'll take a little bit of a haircut. It's fine. It's fine. That building can be empty another 5 nights a year. I don't need the cash. Come on.
Hey, I know LaCroix Butler's a big Showtime for that Showtime movie that was out or show that was on the Lakers dynasty thing.
Oh, yeah. Winning Time.
Winning Time or something like that. The lovely Jeannie Buss sold the Lakers for what? How much? $10 billion?
Yeah. And now, like, the Lakers are probably going to actually operate like you would think the Lakers would, because Tony, a lot of these franchises, and a lot of franchises have modernized, like Josh Harris, the Sixers, and he owns multiple teams and has just all of this cash. But NFL owners and some NBA owners too, that's the family business. And they don't have mountains and billions of dollars in hedge fund money coming in and other investments. Like the Busses are the Lakers, and that's it.
Yeah, I got a friend, Lois, in Liverpool. She's got she's a fan of the Liverpool team, the soccer team, obviously, and the Boston Red Sox owner, that John Henry, owns that team too. So
can I would also like to complain, Tony, that's an excellent call. I would also like to complain. This might just be me. This might just be a hill that I'm dying on. It seems that with the rich and famous in our country, buying a European soccer team is quite the peacocking move. All of these rich millionaires and billionaires and famous people are like, well, we own Sassafras FC. And did you see how they did in their league? I hate that. And I guess I don't really like soccer that much. I think I am an American sports fan who does it right. I don't watch soccer. I try. The Euro Cup or the World Cup is on. I'll give it a good old go. I'll go to a bar on a Saturday morning with friends and drink the Irish coffees and watch the USA game. I'll do it. But it just never really captures me. The NHL in moments has captured me. The Four Nations got me. The Olympics will get me. Soccer just doesn't really get me. But I'm not someone who then walks around my entire life taking a big fat steaming dump on soccer and making fun of people who like soccer. So I am an honest and reliable narrator when it comes to soccer. I don't like that John Henry owns the Red Sox, and I think he owns does he own the Flyers too? He has decided, as many divested American sports owners have, there's more prestige in European side. That's so lame. Then sell your American team and just go do the soccer thing. But for a lot of these owners, it's just a part of their portfolio, which I don't know, means there's more money, but then they also have the opportunity or the option, like John Henry. Well, I'm not going to spend it on the Red Sox. I'm going to put the money and I'm going to do the soccer thing. You know what I mean? But then, like Tony, you mentioned with the Busses or with the Browns in Cincinnati, that's the family business and that's it. So they have limited money. So would you rather have the owner who's limited financially? Mark Attanasio would be a good one. My whole thing is the Brewers. My whole thing is the Bengals. My whole thing is the Lakers. Or would you rather have an owner like Josh Harris or John Henry, who's got more money than God, but has options to go throw it at European soccer? Because then you can, prove to your rich and famous friends that you have, I like fine art and culture. Just spend, I don't know. Sorry, maybe this is, what's the word, xenophobic. Maybe I just want my football and my basketball, and I think soccer is Euro trash, which I don't, as I explained, but it is annoying to me. Why do the always sunny guys have to own a European soccer team and puff out their chest over that? It's not for me. But if it's for thee, I'm glad for you, and I guess for the always sunny guys. When we come back, I have one more thought on the NBA draft, and I'll make it quick. And then we'll talk about the Brewers for the rest of the hour. La Crosse Beer House presents the show, corner of 3rd and Pearl in downtown La Crosse. And I can't recommend it enough, especially in the summer, because they have those big garage doors that they open. So the fresh air comes rolling in. You can go get a big mug of their authentic German beers. Their brats are excellent. If you don't want to go in and get a big fat meal after work and I just want to stop by, have a snack, have a beer. They have a bunch of different brat options, and they source their meat right up the hill. Bubba's Meats on the south side of La Crosse. They're awesome. And then if you want the big meal, you could do that too. You can get the fish fry. You get the big pretzel, which is excellent. The bacon on a stick, the schnitzel, the spätzle, all that stuff. And it's also a great spot. You go have the Brewer game on after work, sit outside, get the fresh air. Or if you want to go out on the town on the weekends, it's also a great place to do a little dancing. I fancy myself a bit of a nightlife cat when I am on 3rd Street. Around those parts. So the corner of 3rd and Pearl, that's La Crosse Beer House. And check their Facebook page because they'll occasionally have live music or things going on down there. It's a blast and a half. So we appreciate La Crosse Beer House, the corner of 3rd and Pearl, and appreciate them presenting the Wisco Sports Show. We'll be right back. One more NBA thought, and then we'll get into the Brewers.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels here. Are your 2 wheels revved up? Because here it comes. The Big River Rally where the river meets the road. It rolls into La Crosse on June 27th and 28th. Join us for a weekend packed with action. Stunt shows, a killer bike show, food trucks, all kinds of awesome vendors. Friday, Rod's River Run with Texas Hippie Coalition lighting up the stage that night. Then Saturday, it's the Big River Rally Ride. Miles and miles of pure freedom. Then Saturday night, Drowning Pool rocks the house. Grab your tickets right now. Big River Rally.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
this was when I lost my mind. I think I blacked out. I'm so glad the NBA can still give us these. New Orleans trades up 10 spots so they can take Derek Queen, and they give up their unprotected 2026 first-round pick swap that they have with Milwaukee, where they have the favorable, whatever the better pick is, they keep. They send that to Atlanta, who had to be deliriously happy. Like, we only have to move down 10 spots and we get an unprotected. This was one of the 5 dumbest trades of this decade. I was speechless. I just can't believe it. And who is it? It's our guy, Joe Dumars. And now he just traded away their unprotected 2026 pick house. They're in the West. What the does he think's going to happen next year? Does he think they're going to be a 5 seed? What is he doing? They should have shown the Hawks war room as guys are taking their shirts off and doing this and popping champagne on each other. They might have the championship belt now, a biggest mess of a team. I think this is it. I think giving away next year's first-round pick and making it unprotected, I think they grabbed the belt.
It's a little bit of Bill Simmons last night. New Orleans has become the punching bag of night 1 of the NBA draft. And I think in some ways it's earned, maybe a little bit. I also think it's a little bit unfair. I'll explain here in a minute. That's probably my only real basketball take from last night's draft. Other than that, it's mostly reaction to Brooklyn fans crashing out because their team just drafted 2 Jewish guys with Israeli citizenship that no one's ever heard of. And that's not, by the way, that's not commentary on Israel or Jew. It's just kind of a funny thing. Like, if you've been watching tape of, guys at this college or that college and your team's been in the lottery and it sucks. It's like, we drafted who? People crashing out over ESPN's coverage. Grass is green, water is wet. Like, nothing new there. Slip of the tongue from Malika Andrews saying a Colin Cowherd instead of Cedric Howard. The hats always get criticism. Why can we not get the correct hats on these guys? All that stuff. The one real basketball take I have from last night is what the New Orleans Pelicans did. They gave up next year's first, completely and totally unprotected, to move up, I think, from like 23 to 13 or something. The exact numbers actually don't really matter to me. To take Derek Queen, the guy from Maryland, who Badgers fans were familiar with. We saw him a couple of times. I saw him in person last year at the Kohl Center, or 2 years ago at the Kohl Center. 2 seasons ago. Maybe it was last year, but it would have been 2 seasons ago now. Good player. I don't really have any thoughts on his upside or on his skill set, strengths, weaknesses, comps, anything like that. It would seem that the Pelicans think that's the guy, we get him, and we're ready to roll. And most of the basketball world and the sports world said, how can you do that? How can you trade away that pick unprotected? Because now next year, what if New Orleans stinks and they get a top 5 lottery pick? What if they stink and they win the lottery? Atlanta holds the rights to that pick now. When a lot of times in the NBA, when teams trade away picks, they will put certain protections on it. And New Orleans may have tried. New Orleans said, can we get a top 3 protected? Which still leaves you open, because if New Orleans stinks next year and they get the 4th pick, I still don't want to give that up. But I definitely don't want to give up a top 1, 2, 3, like Joe Dumars, the new GM. You heard Bill Simmons reference that. I don't want that. And maybe New Orleans tried to get protections and they couldn't, and then they just did the deal anyways. But people jumping down the throats of the New Orleans Pelicans and their general manager and the Benson family. This is Nick Wright talking about this. A little more sound from his live stream last night.
The Atlanta Hawks are trading the number 13 pick to the New Orleans Pelicans. Wow. Wait, is this right? Did New Orleans just earmuffs, kids? New Orleans just traded away their next year's first round pick unprotected to move up from 23 to 13. That might be the most reckless draft day trade I've seen in 5 years.
Which, by the way, Simmons and Nick Wright both doing that. It's like, that's the craziest trade I've seen in 8 years. Like, are you guys keeping tabs on this stuff? Like, I don't even remember how many yards or touchdowns or anything Jordan Love threw for last year. And you guys are like, I haven't seen 2 or 3 other trades this reckless in the last 12 years, the last Baker's dozen years. Let's make it 13.
Absolutely no due respect. Who the hell does New Orleans think they are? You cannot, if you're New Orleans, trade away next year's first round pick unprotected. You could be terrible.
They could be terrible, and that's the risk that they're running here, right? New Orleans has been in this holding pattern the last couple of years. Well, if everyone can just be healthy, I actually think if everyone on that team could be healthy, they would be pretty good. The problem is Zion doesn't really seem that locked in. Seems to be a little pudgy. Seems to have some distractions, let's say, with the ladies. But still uber talented. It's just when was Zion drafted? He's already, what is it, year 6 or 7? What year was the Zion? He was a 2019 draft. So this is going to be either year 6 or year 7, I think. Not year 5, right? I'm doing the math correctly. The point is he's been in the league a while. Typically, if there's a come to Jesus moment with a player after year 2 or 3, normally you get year 6, year 7, you just kind of are who you are, except for Jason Tatum, who's obviously still developing. And he's got still big strides to make. We haven't even remotely begun to see his ceiling yet. He's the outlier, obviously. There is a real risk that New Orleans is running here. If all their guys get hurt again and Zion Williamson really isn't all that locked in and they stink, they could end up in the lottery. And we've seen the last 2 years, you don't need to exactly be at the top of the lottery odds to win the lottery. In fact, it hasn't been the team with the best odds or the worst record. You know what I mean? Worst record, best odds. A team has come from kind of the back row, whether it's been Dallas or Atlanta. We've seen it happen. That's on the board for New Orleans next year. They feel that they've identified a player that's the guy we're missing. We're going to go get him because it's time. This is all going to come together. And that could happen too. I'm not really going to criticize New Orleans or rip New Orleans. I honestly think people just needed a story last night. And New Orleans obliged. They made the gutsy trade. They did the thing. They did the move that gives every podcast and every live stream something to talk about. You notice those 2 bits of audio that I played for you from the Bill Simmons pod and from Nick Wright's live stream? Is anyone losing their mind over New Orleans? Like, is Nick Wright or is Bill Simmons kind of just going ape last night, if not for their podcast? The existence of a draft reaction podcast necessitates reaction. And your reaction can't be, I don't have anything to say. So you need to pick a team or something that did something. I was talking with Bart Winkler, who was on the show the other day. He hosts his national show at night out of Milwaukee on the Infinity Sports Network. And our group chat was going yesterday. He's basically like, man, I hope someone makes it. I need a trade tonight. I need something, right? You need something to talk about. And I guess that was the trade. That was the thing. I don't think anyone going into last night was like, we'll see what New Orleans does. I don't think the Pelicans were front of mind for really anybody. And that's no disrespect to New Orleans, but I think most people were interested to see, obviously, Cooper Flagg, but then San Antonio, number 2. Where's Ace Bailey going to go? I think Con Knipple has become an interesting story and an interesting player. I don't know that anyone went into last night saying, you know what's really, really going to jump out to me? You know what's going to make or break this draft is what New Orleans does. I don't think so. But they did the big gutsy thing, for better or worse. And I think for the most part, people are like, okay, that's the thing. That's the team that we can call stupid. That's the team that we can yell at, them in Brooklyn. Sometimes I wonder how we'd think about sports differently and how we'd cover sports differently, if not for all of our coverage. You know what I mean? I don't think everything needs an instant reaction podcast. We don't need emergency podcasts. That's why I like sports radio. It's got a schedule. This show is on Monday through Friday from 4 to 6. We will address whatever's going on at 4 o'clock, not a minute sooner and not a minute later than 6 o'clock, which means I don't need on Sunday night to be like, what am I going to talk about on the I know the show's Monday through Friday, and there's days where there's a lot going on, and then there's days where there's nothing going on, and the show goes on. But with podcasts, we need a live reaction show. We need an emergency podcast. What are we going to talk about? And I think for a lot of people, that was New Orleans. It's a bold move, and it could certainly backfire. Let's see. Maybe Derek Queen is awesome. I don't know. Let's think about that for a sec. Maybe it all comes together, and maybe Zion's really locked in. I think this is the year. I don't know. I wouldn't bet on it one way or another, but it seems a little silly. It seems a little aggressive and unfair. When we come back, I want to get into some Brewers conversation. I'll get to some of your texts as well. It's 608-321-1670. It's the Wisco Sports Show presented by Lacrosse Beer House. We'll wrap up hour number 1 next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Last couple minutes of hour number 1. It's the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills, and I'm on Twitter. The show streams there at Wisco Grant. A couple of texts coming in. 608-321-1670. Tom in Oak Creek on our previous conversation about sports owners and how it seems like they're all starting to fall into 2 buckets. There are the Brown family in Cincinnati, or even like on a grander scale, the Jones family with the Cowboys. That's a family business. The business is the Cowboys. And then you have the other bucket of owners who are big-time capital wealth managers or have these, massive piles of money, and they own, like John Henry, the Red Sox and the Penguins, and then they own, Liverpool. Which teams John Henry own again? Fenway Sports Group, Liverpool FC. And I was complaining that, what's everyone's fetish with soccer? I'm not saying it's a dumb sport. I'm not saying it's worth your time. I hate that that's become this mark of prestige in our culture where it's like, well, are you even really rich and successful if you don't own a soccer team and you can't brag about that to your rich friends? And Tom in Oak Creek says, Ignacio does own a soccer team. He's the co-majority owner of whatever Norwich City is, evidently the league one below the Premier League. See, Brewers fans, we get the worst of both worlds. We get the owner who doesn't have mountains of money, but also is obsessed with being involved in European soccer. Like John Henry owns the Red Sox, has mountains of money, and is just choosing to dedicate it to things other than the baseball team or the Penguins. Ignacio does not have mountains of money, but is still like, I still want to be able to brag that I'm in European soccer. So it's the worst of both worlds for Brewers fans and for this Brewers team. Let's talk about the Brewers. I kind of want to set something up for the other side of Zach's update. We'll circle back to this after 5 o'clock. But they have won more games in baseball over the last 30 days than any other team. Or I guess more accurately put, they have the best record in baseball over the last 30 days. And Bill brought this up on his show earlier today and asked, well, is this sustainable? Can they keep doing this? I think the easy answer to that is no, it is not sustainable that they have the best record in baseball. So set that to the side. Let me ask it differently in a way that's a little bit more approachable and realistic and worthwhile. Is this level of play that we've seen from the Brewers over the last couple of weeks sustainable? Forget the win-loss record. They've looked like a much better team over the last 2 months than they did in the opening stretch of the season. Is this version of the team sustainable? Is this level of play sustainable, even if the results aren't at the top of Major League Baseball? And when you start to parse that out and flesh that out, my first thought whenever we talk about a team that's playing well is I think, okay, are there any players that are overperforming big time? Is there anybody who's white hot that we expect to come back down to earth? And maybe there's a guy or two, like shockingly enough, I guess Joey Ortiz, you could look at him and say, well, he's not this good. Okay. But I don't think he was as bad as he showed early on. Let's say Joey Ortiz comes back down to earth a little bit. Okay. Or Christian Yelich comes back down to earth a little bit. Christian Yelich is playing just about as good as he possibly can. Let's say Christian Yelich starts to slump. Okay. That would certainly impede the Brewers. That would certainly lower the level of baseball. But I also think Jackson Chourio has a level or two higher than the level we're currently seeing. So if Yelich tails off a little bit, I think the other side of that coin is, well, we're not seeing the best from Chourio. So that's almost like weight counterweight. Rhys Hoskins has been mostly poor. He's mixed in some well-timed home runs over the last week or two, but I think we've seen a better brand of baseball from him than we're currently seeing. Like I think for every hole that you could poke in this Brewers team right now, you could plug a hole somewhere else. For every argument, well, this player is going to cool off, you could probably find another player on the team and say, well, they're going to pick it up. Or there's another guy coming back off of injury. Pitching, Mizorowski might cool down a little bit, but I don't know that anyone in this rotation is pitching out of their skull. I think it's been mostly a group of guys playing at a very solid level. If they were all throwing no hitters every other night, I'd say, all right, I probably wouldn't bet on that to continue. But this level of pitching from Freddie Peralta could almost set your watch to it. If anything, Freddie Peralta might find a higher gear at some point this season than we've seen. He's been good, not great. I think he has great in him. I think the bullpen, much of the same. Like, I think McGill's good. I think McGill or Mears is good. I think Koenig is better than he showed. And I think Uribe is excellent. And if this team keeps playing well and the starters keep holding up their end of the bargain, Murph's able to get some of those guys rest. I think that's an elite back end of the bullpen that's going to, continue to be able to lead this team to wins. I don't think the Brewers will finish this year with the best record in baseball, and I think they will probably fall off this torrid pace that they've been on over the last month. But again, for every player that you could say, well, that won't keep happening, I think you could find another guy on the roster and say, yeah, but that guy's probably going to pick it up soon. I think Chourio's going to pick it up soon. Contreras is the one. That's what I don't know what we're going to do with that. We talked about that. I was filling in for Bill yesterday. We talked about that with Spencer Michaelis. I don't think it came up with Kurt Hogue last night because we were so, hot and bothered for Skeens and Miz, and he was at the ballpark. So we were really focusing on what went down yesterday. And Contreras didn't even play yesterday. So I don't want to take up too much of Kurt's time with things that weren't directly rated to his experience covering at the ballpark yesterday. But we'll pick this up on the other side of the top of the hour. We'll get 2 minutes of Zach Heilprin and his update here. And when we come back, the Brewers have the best record in baseball over the last 30 games. Is that sustainable? Don't get hung up on the record because they're not going to finish the year with the best record in baseball. But is this level of play, their pitching, their offense, their excellence and dominance in the bullpen, is that sustainable? Are they capable of being a very good baseball team? Is that sustainable? And I think it is. I want to hear from you. I'll take your phone calls next at 608-321-1670. You can text and call that number, and you can comment on the live stream as well, Facebook and YouTube. Just look up the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Pilson, then it streams, of course, on Twitter as well, at Wisco Grant. From you, Brewers fans, I want to hear from you. Is this a mirage, or can they keep this going on a reasonable, reasonable level? 2-minute update from Zach Heilprin. We'll be right back.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Brewers are getting the day off after one of the more electric regular season atmospheres at American Family Field yesterday in a 4-2 win over the Pirates. The reason for the atmosphere was the pitching matchup, one that Jacob Mizorowski came out on top. Rookie gave up just 2 hits over 5 innings and struck out 8, while Pittsburgh's Paul Skeens made it just 4 innings and gave up 4 runs. Manager Pat Murphy extremely impressed with how Mizorowski handled such a charged situation.
The fact that he understood it and understood the magnitude it meant for our team. It's about the team. And I think he got it loud and clear and didn't give up free bases, didn't implode, walked the first guy, got back on track. I think just his poise and ability to handle the situation, he just showed that he's unflappable.
The win was Milwaukee's 7th in the last 10, leaving them 2.5 games back of Chicago heading into today. They're going to get back on the field tomorrow as the Rockies come to town. Colorado on pace to have the worst winning percentage of any major league team era, currently sitting 8th.
Keeping Wisconsin strong.
Get insurance from a company who knows Wisconsin and cares about your community. You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home and auto rates? Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more about products and discounts.
Rural Mutual Insurance. Keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the NBA draft will continue with the second round in Brooklyn. After not having a pick in the first round, the Bucks are scheduled to be on the clock for the 47th overall pick. Tonight should also be when former Badgers guard John Condon hears his name, which had been projected as a mid-second round pick, would be the first Wisconsin player drafted since Johnny Davis in 2022. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Kyle, Pritt.
I'm going to scream about the hat situation. It's not any, the league's too smart to have the moment that they've waited their whole life for be a picture in the wrong hat. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know why they can't fix it.
So the Portland Trailblazers select Colin Cowherd here. This is a young man with the ultimate bet on yourself story.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
I want to keep the Brewers discussion going. They got the best record in baseball over the last 30 games. And I ask you, Brewers fans, is that sustainable? Not the best record thing, but this high level of competitive baseball where they're pitching and their offense and everything's working and they look more like the team we saw last year than the team we saw in the first month. Is that sustainable? Do you expect that to continue on a reasonable level? Not necessarily a level that, wins them 100 games and puts them at the best place in baseball. I think we can all agree that's probably not going to happen. Certainly not going to happen. Well, never say never. William Contreras' hand fixes itself, maybe some stem cells during the All-Star break. I don't know. Is it reasonable to think that this is the version of the Brewers that we're going to get for most of the rest of the season, record aside? Do you think that is fair? Do you think that's, again, reasonable? I think is probably the best word. 608-321-1670. I will take your calls and your thoughts on the Brewers. And if you have any extended reaction from Skeens v. Miz yesterday, because I know the phones were a little bit on the fritz, especially for Verizon customers. There was some sort of carrier outage yesterday. Carriage is actually a good word to describe that. A couple of texts here. One says, Brewers beat the Pirates ace, 50 minutes of NBA, WTF. Well, we talked for a couple minutes with Tony about, the attractiveness of women in different places in the country, too. It was a pretty good 50 minutes, not just on the NBA. Maybe it was like 40 minutes on the NBA. Also, some really weird breaking news. Wander Franco, you remember this? He's dating the 14-year-old, apparently. Has been convicted. He gets a 2-year prison sentence and then probation after it. The mother of the victim received a 10-year sentence for sexually trafficking her daughter. But also, it's weird, right? I'm no lawyer here. Either he's guilty or he's not, right? And if he's guilty, then is the mother guilty? I guess two people can be guilty at once. This is a weird story that I'm going to have to dig into later tonight. This is interesting, but there's a world in which, I still think he's only 23, 24. He could play baseball again. There's a chance he's in the major leagues. I would actually bet on him making the major leagues before I'd bet on Trevor Bauer. Or maybe they'll be in cahoots somewhere in the Mexican or the Korean league, and Wander Franco can hit bombs off of him just like everybody else. Your Brewers thoughts. Sorry to take that detour. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Uncle Packer.
Hey, Uncle Packer. What's going on?
Oh, not much. I'm just loving the Brewers right now. I love these little fast, muscular guys, Collins, Durbin. I don't know what we're going to do with Mitchell. I don't want to bring them back, really. I like these young guys more. I'm really happy with the way that I love that when they can play small ball. I love that small ball stuff. I think that's how we got our way up Well, we had to get some hits. I think that's how we scored on Skeens yesterday.
Yeah.
Because we played small ball. When we got on base, we were going to go to the next base. And I like that when they're aggressive like that.
Well, I just think there are fewer and fewer teams capable of that in Major League Baseball today. In some games, in a lot of games, Uncle Packer, you're still going to need to be able to pound the ball and hit home runs and hit doubles and do that thing too. But I do enjoy that this team has that up their sleeve. The inverse is a team that strikes out all the time and completely relies on the home run. And I don't know that team would be super entertaining to watch unless they're the 2011 Brewers and it's Braun and they're hitting jacks every other game, right? The worst thing is you're a 500-ish team, maybe like the Red Sox, who completely and totally rely on the home run and for the most part don't get it. I would rather watch a team like this. I think it's more entertaining.
Me too. But we have the ability to hit the long ball.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some good long ball hitters. It's all about staying healthy and staying high and staying hungry. If we can do that, it's going to be a great year. I think September 3rd. No, was it September 3rd last year? Yeah. When he hit that home run, ended our season, I was just like sick.
Probably October in the postseason.
October. Yeah,
probably
in
October.
The end of the postseason. When the guy from the Mets, Alfonso, I think it was his name, hit the home run. Man, that deflated. I said, I can't do this again. I can't get so involved with them.
We will.
And they lose.
I mean, we are going to do it again. We're doing it as we speak,
here.
Uncle Packer. We are doing it again.
Yeah. Alexa, volume 5.
Oh, and there goes Uncle Packer. Maybe something came up. You can call back if you have more to say, Uncle Packer. I think Uncle Packer makes a good point. The small ball conversation it's a tricky one. I would often do battle with the folks on the morning show because they put the ball in play and drop down a bunt. And you're never going to bunt your way to being a good team. But a good team can really be aided and you can win more games if you have that card in your hand. You know what I mean? If you have that in your bag. Like if you're a good team, a baseline for a good team, you have to have strong enough pitching with good depth and a deep enough bullpen. And you need an offense that doesn't completely suck. If you are a baseline team, let's say you're a team that's about 5 games over 500, you have all of the basic components to be a good baseball team that, wins a couple more games than they lose. It's a pretty useful skill for that team to be able to do what the Brewers did yesterday. Put the bat to the ball, extend at bats, move runners over, put pressure on a pitcher and a defense. I mean, that's how they got to Skeens yesterday. You can't build a team around that. You can't small ball and slap hit your way to being a good team. But I think for a good team or a slightly above average team, it's a useful skill to be able to have. And I think that's the best way to describe the Brewers. I would like to see a little bit more power from Churio. I mean, I'd like to see more from Contreras too. But again, with this hand, I just don't know what's reasonable to expect. I'm not going to yell at my TV every night for Contreras to hit balls out of the park when I know that he's limited, when I know that it's just probably not going to happen. But I'd like to see a little bit more from Churio. And again, with some of these other players on the roster, Frelick, Terang, Ortiz, Durbin, it's just probably not realistic to expect their power numbers to bounce much higher. But I think we're starting to see the best of Ortiz, and maybe that includes a little power here and there. Maybe Durbin. I mean, Durbin just gets a little bit better at everything, little by little, day by day. So maybe there is some power in there. It's certainly not what his batted ball profile would lead you to think. But I think the key for this Brewers team to sustain a pace that puts them in the playoffs, so we're talking about wins in the upper 80s, 88, 89 wins. Maybe that's good enough for a wild card. I think to win the division, you got to hit 90 because I do think the Cubs are really good. And we'll see with the Cardinals. I have some questions there, but at least at this point in the season, they're right there in the mix. I think 90 or more is going to get you the division. To get there, they need to find a way to get what little power exists elsewhere in the lineup other than Yelich and Churio. They need to find a way to extract a couple homers from Terang, a couple from Ortiz, a couple from Durbin. Here and there, they need a hot streak from Rhys Hoskins where he hits, 3 home runs in a span of 5 days or something like that. Like just a penny here, a nickel there, a quarter here. That's, I think, what's going to be the difference with this team. And of course, it goes without saying Yelich staying healthy and continuing to produce because he's the straw that's definitely stirring the drink right now. And when you talk about the Brewers being able to sustain this level of play, you could say, well, I wouldn't hold my breath and I wouldn't feel too confident that Yelich is going to do this all year. Oh, okay. But I think it's then reasonable to expect well, Churio's probably going to play better than we've seen recently. And I haven't looked at his splits. I'll pull up his June splits here over our first break because I could be talking on my butt. Maybe Churio's been awesome and I've just been missing it or I haven't been seeing it correctly. But I think you could argue that, well, Yelich might cool off a little bit at a certain point. I think Churio's got better ball in him than this and more power in him than this. And then the game becomes just extracting as much power as you can, little by little, night by night from every other spot on the roster and getting the best possible version of injured Contreras that you can get. I think that's the name of the game. I think that's going to be the difference in this team winning 85 games, which is probably a little below a comfortable wildcard spot, and the difference of doing what they did last year, which is winning 92 and probably winning the division. I feel like 92 wins would get you the division, maybe 90. We'll see what happens with the Cubs. I still think the Cubs are really, really good. They've regressed just a little bit. The Brewers started in a crummy spot and have progressed. The Cubs started in an awesome spot and have regressed a little bit, and what we're left with is two teams that are kind of at sea level with each other right now. And I think the Brewers can stay in that mix and be there all year. We've seen it. We have enough sample now. We're almost to the month of July. But the name of the game is getting enough power from Yelich and Churio. Those two are going to have to be stars. Yelich is going to have to continue to be a star, and Churio needs to be a little bit better than we've seen. He's had some nice moments, but we need to see more of what we saw last year, especially in the last couple of months from Churio. We just need more pop, more power, more production. Those two are the two straws that are going to stir the drink. And then the rest of the drink from top to bottom, whether it's Frelick or Terang or Ortiz and Durbin, you need to get just enough big swings from the rest of the lineup, to kind of get by night to night and to get through and to navigate 162 games. And I think they might have it in them. We'll have to see. Because I think they're just so deep pitching wise. I don't really worry about that falling off. I don't know that they're going to have a lot of 8-inning shutouts, but I feel fairly confident that they're not going to have a lot of 3-inning crummy performances. They're just deep enough and experienced enough, and the least experienced guy they have is, of course, Mizorowski, who's been probably the best arm and might be the most dangerous arm, the best arm in baseball at this moment in time. 608-321-1670. Let's take another call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Darnell.
Hey, Darnell. What do you think of all this?
Well, I think that we had conversations back probably more towards the beginning of May. And a lot of those conversations were, this is what the Brewers team looks like if they're not getting high-level contributions from Churio and Yelich.
Yeah,
right?
I remember that.
All we said was, all we need is them to, play the way they're paid, right? Play like stars.
Hit the back of their baseball card would be the old timer phrase. Yeah.
That is a perfect way of putting it, because and now that they're doing that, now you see the team has success, right? So it's like we know what it takes for this team to be good or great, right? It's just about the team needs to match what we say, is what good baseball teams need, right? Which is your stars need to hit. You need to get great pitching, which we've gotten great pitching all year. And yeah, this team has a ton of staying power as long as the players do what they're supposed to do, right? And what they're paid to do, right? The stars need to be stars. The role players need to play their roles, and the pitchers need to do what they've been doing all year. Like I said, which is fantastic pitching.
Just show up and continue to do what they've been doing. It's not like their pitching has been unbelievable, other than Miz. Can you get 5 or 6 innings and can you get, by definition, a quality start? I feel pretty confident that they're going to get a quality start just about every night. I tell you what, Darnell, every once in a while, I'd love a 7-inning goose egg from Freddie, just here and there. But if the floor for just about all these starters, maybe save for Chad Patrick right now, is a quality start with this bullpen and the offense playing the way that they play, that'll play. That'll work. That will, again, get you through 162, which right now is the goal. That's the whole thing in late June.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, I could have called Freddie giving up a 3-run homer in the 6th inning.
Yeah.
As soon as he gives up a base runner in the 6th, I'm like, yep. All right, well, this
Here
is
it
going to
is.
be at least a 2 spot, right?
Yeah.
At least. So we're good with that. It sucks to see. And it's like, if he could just figure out how to get through the first couple batters that third time through, like we're talking, in the Cy Young conversations, but he just can't get past that for whatever reason.
Yeah. And I think that's mostly been the story of his career, and that's why for most of his career, he's thought of as a high-level third starter.
Right. And that's why it was so funny a couple of years ago, or I guess now it's just a year ago, when everyone's like, well, okay, he'll step into that ace role. I'm like, he doesn't have ace stuff. He just doesn't. He doesn't have enough pitches, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have a third pitch that can strike people out, right? Like he's brought in a changeup a little bit the last year and a half, and it's worked. But it's also like it's not a power pitch for him, so he can't get strikes out. He can't get strikeouts. He can't get swing and miss on those things, especially not in like the fifth and sixth inning. So then he's going to struggle once people start figuring his fastball out, right?
Yeah.
It's just tough. But I mean, he's pitched admirably this year, right? If there was an MVP for consistency, and we know exactly what we're getting every day, he'd be getting that, because we know we're going to get 4 to 5 innings of pretty much lockdown pitching, and then it's a complete crapshoot after that.
Yeah. Which with the depth in this bullpen and their depth in their starting rotation too, like that'll play. If Freddie Peralta's stat line at the end of every start can start with a 5, if it's 5 innings or 5 1/3 or 5 2/3, like if you get that every time, that's fine. And I think that mostly applies to the rest of the rotation. Again, Darnell, I'd love every 4 or 5 starts for him to go 6 shutout and look like a stud, because we know he can do that. That's why he's a third starter, is he's got that in him. You just can't expect it every start. I would like that a little bit more often than we've got it. But with the depth in their rotation and the depth in their bullpen, and that's only going to get better now with Woodruff coming back, whatever they can get there, and Logan Henderson remains an option as well. Like, that'll play. And again, that's what we're talking about in late June. We're not saying, hey, how would you match up against the Mets in a 3-game series with the Dodgers? It's how can you navigate this week and next week, and how can you get through 162 winning a lot more games than you lose? And I think this team has proven recently with this type of roster construction that they have a formula to do that.
They do. And on top of that, think about last year, their best pitcher in the postseason was Tobias Myers, is not even on the team right now. You know what I mean? So they've just got this insane depth. Not saying that he can necessarily get back to that, but he's also young. Well, he's not young. He's an old rookie.
Yeah.
Whatever. He was an old rookie last year, but like inexperienced, I guess, is what I would say. But yes, all they need to get is those 5 innings, because they've got basically 4 people that can go out 6, 7, 8, and 9 and go get shut down innings at the end of pretty much any game against any roster, right?
Yeah.
Their high leverage bullpen has been insane this year, and I don't see that changing.
Especially when it's rested. Like when those guys get their rest, Uribe's been worked a little bit harder. Mears has gotten some days off. Appreciate it, Darnell. And McGill has answered the bell, even in some really tough spots. He hasn't been absolutely perfect, but Brewers fans, I think we've been pretty spoiled over the years. I think McGill is just about as good of an option as you could have. Steven Madison, they could maintain this level of play, I think. The beginning of the season was a struggle for them, trying to figure out their identity due to the loss of 2 big personalities, losing Bob, also a reason. Yeah, it's tough. I remember talking about that on opening weekend. It's just impossible to quantify. You can quantify Willie Adames and his 30-plus homers and all those RBIs and his personality. Adames, when he showed up in 2021, I remember it. That was the summer of, it was just the greatest year. It wasn't the summer of 2021. It was just the balls. I remember when they acquired him and the team just went on a run, and it was clear from the moment he got to town, like how infectious that guy was and what he did for the team. It was night and day. So you lose that. That's a big deal, and that was an adjustment for sure. This texter, I actually don't have this person's name. Send in your name. It says, we're at the halfway point. They have 45 wins. That's after a slow start. I think 90 to 94 wins is possible. I think that's what wins the division, too. I think it's going to take 90. I don't think 88 or 89 does it. Coyote Mike says, Grant, what's up? Last year, I think the Brewers comfortably led the NLCD, National League Central Division, for 2/3 of the season and finished a whopping 10 games on top over St. Louis and CC. Now, at the midway mark of the season, would you prefer leading the division or chasing the leader as they are currently? I think often it's easier to be the chaser rather than being chased. What say you? Good setup. I think this team plays well as a plucky underdog that has to fight and scratch and claw. And especially as a team with some younger guys who are carving out roles for themselves in the major leagues, especially kind of around the infield, on the left side of that infield, especially, and Isaac Collins too. And now Miz is a young pitcher, Churio in year 2. I think this team plays well in a chaser role. Now, Coyote Mike, if you could tell me the Brewers could be 12 games up in the division right now, I'd obviously take that. But being 2 or 3 games back and just really coming into your own can be a good spot. And the Cubs have felt a little pressure. They've faced a little adversity over the last week. And I think this puts the Brewers in a pretty good spot because, the Craig Counsell swoon in late June before the All-Star break, that comes for every Craig Counsell team. There is no escape. I have some Jackson Chourio splits that I want to talk about on the other side. I said I wanted to look up his monthly splits. His June numbers look pretty good. And I'm like, wait, I actually want to get his weekly splits. I want to dig a little bit deeper. So I'm going to talk about that because I think Chourio is going to have to be a big reason if we talk about this team maintaining this level of play, not having the best record in baseball over a 30-day span, but just playing at a high level and continuing to stack series wins. Chourio is going to be a big part of that, and we can talk about exactly specifically what I mean next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Big River Rally coming to La Crosse, Wisconsin, June 27th and 28th. Don't miss the excitement on the main stage Friday night. It's Texas Hippie Coalition. And Saturday night, Drowning Pool. Tickets are on sale now. Want more? Follow Big River Rally on social or go to BigRiverRally.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Nearly 43,000 people on hand here, largest crowd of the season. We know we had a big TV audience as well. The mound matchup between Skeens and Mizorowski, and how about the kid holding his own?
I mean, he was fantastic, and he walks the leadoff guy, and everybody's like, "Oh, is the pressure getting to him?" And then he
hit cruise control.
It's Kashawn and Dillard from the postgame yesterday. One more time. Kashawn was on with Bill 10:30 this morning, so our number one if you want to go check that out in the podcast or rewind the live stream, however you consume the Bill Michaels show. I wanted to clip a little bit of that, but I forgot. I've had a heck of a 24 hours here in the studio. There's a little story I got to tell you in the last 5 minutes of the show. I messed up something bad yesterday. I was in a poor headspace for hour number 2 of the show yesterday. Luckily, we had Jesse Temple, who is excellent. And I must say, Jesse is very formal, and he does not suffer foolishness, which Zach suffers foolishness. Zach will, he'll have fun and dick around with me a little bit. Jesse, not so much, but I've gotten to know that son of a bee, and I think he's slowly but surely. I'm cracking him bit by bit. So we had Jesse in hour number 2 and Kurt from the ballpark. Thank God, because I was having a little bit of a time here in the studio yesterday. I'll tell you about that later. I don't know why that originally came up, but we'll move on. I want to talk about Jackson Chourio for a few minutes, and then we'll switch over to the Packers after our bottom of the hour break. So when talking about the level of play that we've seen from the Brewers, they have the best record in baseball over the last 30 games. I feel pretty confident in saying that they're not just going to be the best team in baseball the rest of the season. So I'm not going to ask you, hey, 608-321-1670, do you think this is sustainable? Because the easy and obvious answer is no. But there's a conversation there. Tweak that a little bit, edit that a little bit, and say, is this level of play sustainable? Are they capable of playing the rest of the season as well as the team that we've seen recently and not the team that they were in the first month when they were really trying to figure some things out? Can they continue to play at a high level and push the Cubs and contend and fight for a spot in the division or as a wild card later this year? That's the question. And I think the big hanging point and the thing that is really going to decide that, I'm pretty confident that their pitching is deep and good. I don't think they're pitching at a level that's unsustainable, mostly because they're not relying on starters to go 6-7 shutout innings. They're mostly calling on guys to go 5, give you a quality start, and turn it over to that good bullpen. And because the offense has been able to play a little bit better and buy some breathing room, Mears has actually been able to get some rest. McGill has been able to get some rest. Uribe, not necessarily this week because he went 3 out of 4 days. I think Pat Murphy gets hung up and he hasn't pitched in 2 or 3 days. I got to get him some work. Chances are he's going to have a chance tomorrow. You know what I mean? Just odds are. Uribe probably does not need to pitch in a 9-3 game. Mears probably doesn't need to pitch in a 9-3 game because probably against Skeens tomorrow, I can't imagine the Brewers are running away with that one. They'll probably have a chance. And even if it's a blowout, then you can pitch him tomorrow. So I think Murphy, if you want to be aggressive and deploy your guys to lock down a win, fine. I don't really love the, I guess, assumed approach. I'm assuming this on behalf of Murphy, that he thinks that he needs to get guys work. And if he does believe that, then God bless America. Get Aaron Ashby some work. Don't let him go 6 days in between outings. So I wish he would adjust that approach and be a little bit more consistent with that approach. I say all that to say this. I think their pitching is fine. I don't think their pitching is going to fall off a cliff. What would worry me is if Yelich tweaks an ankle or he goes in the tank for a week. He has been providing a lot of the pop and power that makes the rest of the offense go. I know Ortiz has been a nice player, and I'm thrilled for that. And I know Durbin has continued to grow. I didn't see it coming. I'll be honest with you, but I'm impressed at what Durbin has done. Terang is just kind of Terang. If Yelich drops down a level for whatever reason or needs to miss some time, I think the most important player on this roster then becomes Jackson Chourio. Chourio has had a fine season. There's more in there. I think if you want to poke holes in the Brewers and say, well, Yelich isn't going to do this all year, then I would say, okay. But I think Chourio is going to be better than we've seen recently. So you poke that hole, I'll plug the other one. Or I guess vice versa. You poke that hole, I'll plug the other one. I was looking up Chourio splits. In the month of June, he's hitting 250. In 98 plate appearances, or I guess 92 at-bats. It's funny how few walks he takes. Although the last week or so, he's taken a couple. In 92 at-bats, he's got 23 hits, 4 doubles, 2 triples, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs, 250. And I said, you know what? I don't think that he has been let's say, a 250 hitter the whole month. And if you look at his stats, that's reflected. Okay. he got off, if I remember correctly, the beginning of June was excellent. And I'll be honest, I don't have the time right now to go and set the baseball reference. And I'm not going to do this on commercial break or on the air when it's like from this date to this date. I think he began the month of June very, very, very well. The last 30 days, again, he's hitting 270 if you go back to the month of May. The last 15 days, he's hitting 236. The last 7 days, he's hitting 207. So while his overall splits in the month of June look reasonable, I think that's been carried, and I think that number's buoyed by performance at the end of last month or the beginning of June. If you're looking last 30 days or you're just looking at the calendar month of June, he was really hot about 20 days ago, and he's tailored off a little bit. He's hitting, in the last 7 days, I said 207. Not a lot of power there. No home runs in that stretch, at least not that I can think of. He has 0 home runs in that stretch. He's got 4, and this number illustrates it too. The last 30 days, he has 4 home runs. In the last 15 days, he has 1. In the last 7 days, he has 0. He was reaching those heights that we had seen last year about a month ago, and he's tailed off a little bit. I don't want to live the rest of the season just relying on Christian Yelich to provide the pop and the power and the production. You're going to need to get a little bit of that from Chourio, or more than you're getting, and I think he's more than capable of it. But I think Chourio's production or lack thereof is going to tell a big part of the story for the rest of the season, because Contreras just can't do it with a broken hand. He's going to have to fight and scratch and claw his way to get some timely hits and to play a good catcher, and that's about it. So the onus then falls on Chourio. And the month as a whole, the last 30 days look okay, but that's mostly because he was really hot and really productive about 20 days ago. He's tailed off. 608-321-1670, West Coast Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Ed.
Ed! Hey, you son of a gun. It's getting, now you calling Madison. I can't see the weather outside, but there's a window with blinds, and it looks very dark out there. What are you seeing?
It is.
Okay.
It's starting to get pretty arduous. Let's leave it at
Arduous.
that.
Nice word. I haven't looked at the weather.
It's not looking pretty around here again. But that's what happens when you get high humidity weather and it fills up those clouds.
Those pressure systems,
hey,
Ed.
Yeah, you know it, man.
I do.
So, I like your point, and you kind of took my thunder. I think we don't have to go hunting for a third baseman as much as everybody thought. I like Durbin. I think he's really good defensively. He's not a what you want to call. He's not someone you can say, oh, he's going to boot a lot of balls. He's actually played really well at third. And
yeah,
I know that's been a hot spot.
And I think the most promising part is he's gotten better seemingly just about every single week.
Yeah. Exactly, and I think he's on an uptick. I think you make good points about Yelich also, but I think there's a bigger picture here that maybe we can't talk about because we don't know the future. But I believe they're going to go out and get a bat.
Sure.
I just have this feeling they're right there. And if you're chasing the Cubs, and it looks like the Cubs are for the taking, this is a really huge week and weekend. We could be. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but. The stars are lining up for us to take back first place. They're going to play the Stros. We're playing the Rockies.
Yeah.
I kind of like our odds.
I like our odds too, Ed.
I basically was mapping this out starting last Sunday, and looking at the schedule, and yeah, I'm watching scoreboard this weekend for sure. And you're right about Yelich. Yelich, you can't just rely on him. I think that's obvious. But maybe if they keep moving him around, DHing, playing, maybe that'll have some longevity in his ability to stay in the lineup.
Well, and I think part of maybe the slow start for Yelich this year, there's a couple things that we should consider, Ed. He was coming back off back surgery, although he looked unbelievable in spring training. Now, spring training doesn't mean that much, but like that success in spring training has to mean something. But then also, he's a full-time DH this year, which we think is like, well, what do you mean? All you have to do is focus on hitting. Yeah, but if you're used to playing the field and playing every day, that's a little bit of a switch up. There's an adjustment there. So between the back and between the position, quote unquote, change, I think there was maybe an adjustment there. And also, a player's just allowed to have a bad month to start the season. It happens to players who aren't injured, and it happens to players who aren't changing positions. So looking back, maybe trying to reframe or refocus what we thought about Yelich earlier in the year, I think hopefully being the everyday DH is doing wonders for keeping him healthy and fresh and hopefully being able to play and hit every day. Isaac Collins has been a really solid left fielder. If we talk about adding a bat, are we trying to improve the Daz Cameron spot, the fourth outfielder spot? Are we trying? I mean, look, if you can go out and get a stud outfielder who can be a part of this team for a couple years to come, I mean, you could make him the everyday left fielder, and then Isaac Collins could go into the fourth outfielder spot. But Isaac Collins is not like, you're going to need to get someone pretty nice to replace what he's been doing. Not otherworldly, but he's not a chump. He's not a replacement level player. He's been pretty darn good out there. Or do you go and get someone to take the Jake Bauers role? Pinch hit, backup first baseman, utility player. The Jake Bauers role. Those are words that have never been said out loud before. Let's take one more caller. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, this is Jeremy over in Eau Claire. How are you?
Hey, Jeremy. I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. Hey, yeah, so I'm standing out here in my, garage grilling in downpour, so that's awesome, right?
Real grillers they're not turned away by weather, Jeremy.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Bill would tell you that too. Bill believes that more than anybody.
But I'll tell you, I wanted to piggyback on what the last caller was saying there, because that was what I was calling to bring up was Durbin. I think he's not getting enough credit for what he's been doing, especially as of late. He had a slow start, rookie, totally understandable. But last I checked, coming into that last Pittsburgh game, he was slashing, I think it was 230, 320, and 336, which now those numbers don't jump right at you like, oh my God, but I think he's hitting 675 slugging, his OPS, so I'm looking at that and I'm like, hey, he's not just getting base hits. He's not just, he's smashing it to the wall. He's getting doubles. He's getting hard contact. And his fielding percentage, I think he's ranked 4th right now in all of baseball at third base.
He's been playing a good third base.
And then there was talk by somebody, well, we're not going to mention his name because whatever on him, but he was talking about, well, the Brewers should maybe look at getting a third baseman. And I'm like, are you serious? How do you justify that?
I mean, I probably said that once upon a time, but that's fine. We don't need to talk about that. That's fine, Jeremy. We can move on.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like, how do you justify that? Like, when you're like, this guy's, he's ranked 4th at the position, and he's, got that slash line. He's producing. He's got hard hit contact. Like, he is crushing the ball right now. The last 7 games, he's been clutch too, like clutch. Like in clutch situations. So,
there's a gamer factor there, and it brings me no pleasure because it does me bring pleasure. I'm a Brewers fan, but Jeremy, like, I had very little belief that this was going to work. I still don't know that he projects as the best long-term option at third. I think as a second baseman, maybe his skill set fits better, but you kind of already have that guy right now. His glove skills have been, for the most part, excellent. His arm strength is going to limit him at third a little bit, but I've been really impressed at how he's come along over there.
In his first year too. I mean, Bryce Terang, his first year was not great.
Well, especially
it wasn't amazing. And then he turned around second year and he's got his platinum glove winner.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's give him a little bit of time. And as far as the big power hitting, I mean, I don't know what's going on with Rhys Hoskins right now, but I mean, like, if something was to, because I agree with you on your point about, if something was to happen with Yelich, okay, he misses some time. But if Rhys Hoskins can figure it out and start really producing, he's a leader in that dugout. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They look to him.
I think so.
He just needs to be a leader at the plate.
All right. Well, then therein lies the problem. That's a good call, Jeremy. Rhys Hoskins, I think, is just Rhys Hoskins. Can you hit timely home runs when the team needs it? Can you put together a real battle of an at-bat when the team really needs it? Like, can you do those things? If you do those things, you don't need to hit 280. You can hit 235 or 240, or I that wouldn't be my preferred option, but it works. Caleb Durbin over the last 30 days, sitting 277 with 12 stolen bases, 11 RBIs, 23 hits in 83 at-bats, 3 home runs. I'm not telling you that Caleb Durbin is a star, but he's certainly turned into a way better ball player and a way better third baseman in this time window than I ever thought possible. So I'm not going to sit here and nitpick Caleb Durbin. I think he's more than held up his end of the bargain considering the spot that he's been put in. And if him and Ortiz can be this, little buddy cop duo on the left side where they're doing just enough at the plate and playing, defensively playing well. Again, I keep using the word that plays. That will work. That'll get the job done. I'm not telling you it's going to beat the Dodgers in a 7-game series, but it's late June. That's not the focus right now. It's an everyday sports talk show. We're talking about right now. The goal right now is navigating 162 and trying to win series and to continue to climb in this division. We're a little bit late for a break. I want to talk Packers when we come back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
In 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. I want to talk Packers, and I want to reuse a topic that we covered on Bill's show earlier today. Before we move off of baseball, a quick update. So the Cubs beat the Cardinals today. They split the series 2-2. And as who mentioned in our last segment, was that Jeremy up in Eau Claire? Mentioned that the Cubs now go to Houston to play the Astros, so they have another tougher opponent on deck. I don't know that the Cardinals are tough, although I thought they fought admirably in that series to get 2 of 4 from that Cubs team, even though they've been reeling. It's nothing to shake a stick at. But now they go to Houston. You'll be shocked to know that Wilson Contreras had another incident today. Nobody likes that guy. Nobody likes that guy. There's not someone who is well respected or liked in baseball. And it's funny, he gets hit by all these pitches, but this leans into the strike zone. If you're gonna make that a part of your offensive repertoire, lean in with the elbow pad, then you occasionally have to take your base. And also, if you're gonna act like a jackass, you're gonna get hit by a pitch every once in a while. You gotta wear that. And to his credit, not that he deserves it, I think he did a Saturday ago or 2 Saturdays ago now against the Brewers, where he's like, all right, yep, I deserved it. Here's the ball, threw the ball back. But even that, even throwing the ball back made him kind of seem like an a-hole. But you can't win. But when you're an a-hole, a lot of times you can't win with people who consider you to be an a-hole, and many people do with Wilson Contreras. So a quick Packers thing that I wanted to kind of hint at. We were talking on Bill's show today about extensions. And I made a little list of players for Bill. It's like, okay, of all the players on offense and on defense who are extension eligible or soon to be extension eligible. So I'm talking about players who are going into year 3 or going into year 4. And the list that I came up with on offense was Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and Wicks. And I suppose Tucker Kraft's in that group too. On defense, Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, and Lucas Van Ness. There's actually not as many on defense because a lot of the guys are free agents. Xavier McKinney, who's older, or I'm trying to think. There's been other players on defense that they've signed. None come to mind. Hobbs, that's the other one. Or veterans. Rashawn Gary's been here a while. Kenny Clark's been here a while. Or Edgerrin Cooper, for example, is too young, or Evan Williams is too young. So certainly it's more of an offensive thing, and an age bracket. I guess that was the worst way of wording that. Let me put it this way: the Packers' offensive side of the ball has a lot more players in a window that is extension eligible, let's say. So I'm going to throw, if you're watching on the live stream here, I'm going to throw the Spotrac Packers multi-year table on the screen here, and you can see. So we're in 2025, and you can see on the right columns players who are set to reach unrestricted free agency or come up on their deal in 2026 and in 2027. You have players such as Quay Walker, Romeo Doubs, Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker on offense who are coming up on a deal, Christian Watson as well. There are players a tier or two below, like, Sean Ryan. I don't know that I really want to make Sean Ryan the feature of this segment, this conversation. Kingsley Enagbari is a player on defense that we could talk to, but let's just stick with the offense for now. Talk about players again, like Zach Tom, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, and Jaden Reed, who are a year further, but I think those are players that most Packers fans have front of mind as players who are probably going to get extended, so we can include them in this conversation. First and foremost, the player on offense that I am most ready to rip an extension right now, gun to my head, here's a piece of paper, write up a contract, you got to do it. It's Zach Tom, and it's easy. I don't think there should be any consternation over that. Right tackle, top of the market right tackle money. He's your right tackle for the next, let's say, 4 years. If we want to revisit this on a potential third contract, sure. I'm not saying he's a lifetime Packer, but this one's easy, and I would prefer that it's done before training camp starts. I don't want a situation where we're talking about Zach Tom. Next, I think is Tucker Kraft. And I almost forgot to bring him up on Bill's show earlier today because I think that's just such an easy one at this point. He seems to be the exact tight end that they've been looking for and wanting, and I think Packers fans are enjoying him more than they've enjoyed, other options, such as, but not limited to, Richard Rodgers, Justin Perillo. I'm sure there's some more in there that aren't coming to mind, and that's for obvious reasons. It's because they suck. The rest of this group, Doubs, I could go either way. Doubs could play a certain way this season and have a certain season where I go, got to do it. Or he could have a certain season, like if this season is more of the same as last year, some injuries, some inconsistencies, okay, well then I'm not going to pay for that. But if Doubs establishes that connection as the third, fourth down red zone guy the number one in a big spot, got to have it guy for Jordan Love, I don't know how you don't keep that guy around. Right. And I also think that if that happens, that means that Dontavian Wicks probably isn't progressing. And then I'm not really interested in extending Dontavian Wicks. If Romeo Doubs is more of the same, then I think Jaden Reed moves to the front of that line. And then we see what happens with Dontavian Wicks. Christian Watson is interesting just because I don't know how he's going to come off of this injury. And even if he recovers nicely from this injury, he has a littered history that has a bunch of other injuries. What are we going to do with that? What kind of sense am I supposed to make with that? I think I'm out on an extension for Rasheed Walker, and we've talked about this. You can't draft a first-round guy, a second-round guy. Sean Ryan's a third-round guy. You can't have 3 first-round picks on the roster all competing for right guard. That's a poor allocation of resources. I don't think that's. I'm not about it. So I think you need to find one of those guys who you've drafted to take over at left tackle, because you can't pay right tackle, center, left guard, and left tackle and be like, well, we drafted guys, they'll fight it out over right guard. That's not an efficient use of resources. So I'm down for moving on from Rasheed Walker, and I think the Packers probably are too, assuming Jordan Morgan or Anthony Belton or whoever shows a shred of competence at left tackle this year and seems poised and ready to take over at some point, unless they want to move him now, which I don't think they're gonna. On defense, my overarching point with Bill earlier today, I wish there was a guy coming up on a deal that I felt awesome about extending. And there's not. Like, I wish one of Quay Walker or Devontae Wyatt awakened something in me. I wish Lucas Van Ness at this moment in time was awakening something in me. Those are all those first-round picks that have been kind of smattered over the last 5 years. It's like, I wish that one of them got me going. And I think the Packers, what they did in day 3 in this last draft with Barron Sorrell and who were the other two? No, I got it. Barron Sorrell, Colin Oliver, and the third one is slipping my mind, but they kind of threw a couple picks at it. It's like, all right, if Devontae Wyatt, Quay Walker, and Lucas Van Ness remain much of the same, well, then we can get much of the same in the future from these guys on day 3. I wish I was doing jumping jacks for Quay Walker or Devontae Wyatt or Lucas Van Ness in the same way that I am for Zach Tom, potentially Romeo Doubs, but definitely Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed. And then after that, we'll see. I think right now the ease of extension on offense goes Zach Tom, no-brainer, Tucker Kraft, no-brainer, and at this moment in time, Jaden Reed, no-brainer. But there's still a lot that yet needs to play out, and I think that'll probably lend to some good things competition-wise in that room this season. We'll work that out. But at this moment in time, I'd say Jaden Reed is the top wide receiver. But Romeo Doubs could very easily jump in there. Or if Matthew Golden is a stud, it's like, okay, well, then do we need to pay Jaden Reed? You could just let this run out and, get that production elsewhere. A lot on the line for the wide receiver group this fall. It should be fun. And I look forward to training camp. We'll wrap up the show next. I got to tell you a little story of something I messed up yesterday here in the studio.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, last couple minutes here. Very fun show tonight. There's not a ton going on, especially with the Brewers off. And anytime they play in the afternoon, well, we're going to talk about that game the day of. So when we come in the next day, it's like, oh, Skeens and Mizorowski yesterday. Could you believe it? Yeah, we already did that. We already ate that fruit. We already picked at that one. So a little NBA draft reaction in the first hour. I tried to not do a nerdy basketball set. First of all, because I don't know F all about any of these guys other than Cooper Flagg, who I watched in the tournament. That's about it. And Con Knuppel, I guess. But that's about it. So what? You want me to... Well, my favorite prospects in this draft are actually... I really think that the Grizzlies got good value at 6. I'm not going to inundate you with that. I don't want to listen to that. I don't know the Grizzlies fans want to listen to that. But I hit you in the first hour with some of the, just kind of the funny things and the bits of audio that came out from last night. I certainly had a lot more fun show than last night, although last night's show was good and the Brewers game was fun and Kurt Hogue was great. I did a Cardinal Sin in radio. I talked about this with Debo this morning. I spilled a little Diet Coke on the radio board. There are 16 audio sliders and probably another 50, 60 buttons on here. Maybe 20 knobs and then the phone system. And I thought it was just a little bit of Diet Coke. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna wipe it up. Maybe a drop or two got in there, but that's it. It's going to be fine. I'm not going to have to admit to anyone that I did that. Cardinal rule in radio. You never want to be that guy who tells the engineer, like, I spilled the entire iced mocha into this thousands of dollars of equipment. And then I think a couple drops must have seeped down just a little bit. And then I noticed a couple of these lights flickering. And then it got to the point where none of the microphones had shut off. And I'm like, so I had to text our engineer, Trevor. And I'm like, hey, you should have seen my face when he walked in here. Because he knew. He was actually very nice about it. But typically when people spill, the company-wide email goes out, a friendly reminder, and then when that email goes out, you know someone screwed the pooch. That company email has not gone out yet. But if it does, I will, just for self-deprecating humor, read it to you tomorrow. I'll talk to you tomorrow at 4. Never miss a Friday show.